Today's episode dives into chilling cave diving disasters where thrill turned to tragedy. From Norway's frozen labyrinths, South Africa's fossil-filled depths, to a deadly cave near a Utah campus, each story reveals how beauty hides peril. These gripping tales show why underwater caves remain among Earth's deadliest frontiers. The frozen heart of Norway, the Plura Cave tragedy. Nestled deep in the rugged landscapes of Rana municipality in Norway, lies Plura Gruta, the deepest and most extensive cave system in northern Europe. For years, this labyrinth has called to thrill-seeking divers from around the globe. It's breathtaking in its beauty, shimmering limestone passages and water so clear it feels like floating in air. But its beauty is deceptive. Plura is also a death trap, especially in winter when the surface of Lake Plura freezes over, sealing its entrance beneath an unforgiving sheet of ice. On February 6, 2014, 5 seasoned divers from Finland prepared for what would be one of the most dangerous dives of their lives. They weren't amateurs. Each of them had faced extreme depths and harrowing cave systems before. This was supposed to be the ultimate challenge, a dive that would push the limits of skill, endurance, and human courage. Their target was Steinuglflaget Cave, a remote passage deep within Plura's maze, accessible only through a network of tight underwater tunnels. The plan was ambitious, a 5-hour journey reaching depths of over 130 meters. For most divers, even an hour at 30 meters is a big achievement. But for these men, this dive was about testing the edge of possibility. The morning was bitterly cold. The group cut a triangular hole into the frozen lake and one by one disappeared beneath the surface, their dry suits and advanced gear shielding them from the icy black water. At first, everything went smoothly. Their beams of light pierced the darkness, bouncing off jagged rock formations as they descended. But the deeper they went, the narrower the tunnels became. The deeper they went, the colder, the darker, the more dangerous everything felt. Leading the dive was Patrick Grankvist, one of the most experienced among them. Close behind him was his friend, Jari Halonen. The two had actually discovered the connection between Plura and Steinuglflaget the year before. This was supposed to be a triumphant completion of that discovery. But at around 110 meters, disaster struck. Grankvist suddenly realized Halonen was no longer behind him. In the dark silence, panic surged. He circled back frantically until the glow of Halonen's flashlight appeared. But what he found froze him. Halonen was stuck. His gear had snagged on a cord in a narrow section of the cave. He was trapped, signaling desperately with his light. The terrifying part? His breathing had turned frantic. In diving, panic isn't just emotional, it's lethal. His erratic breathing meant a deadly buildup of carbon dioxide was imminent. Grankvist tried everything. He moved in close, signaling calm, and even handed over a gas cylinder to help flush the carbon dioxide from Halonen's system. But the panic was too far gone. In a frantic attempt to switch mouthpieces, Halonen gasped, inhaled water, and drowned right there in front of his friend. Imagine the horror of watching a close companion fight for his life just feet away, then suddenly go limp. Grankvist had to make an impossible decision. Try to free the body and risk his own life, or continue on. Shaken to his core, he knew survival meant pressing forward. Behind him, the other divers were also caught in the unfolding disaster. Visa Parviainen, leading the second group, was the next to come across Halonen's body. The sight was gut-wrenching. He had to make the cruel choice, turn back or push onward. He chose to continue, but maneuvering around the body cost him precious time and increased his decompression schedule by hours. By the time he surfaced, he was in agony, his body racked with the bends. Another diver, Shari Usimaki, didn't make it out at all. The sight of his friend's lifeless body sent him spiraling into panic. In desperation, he mismanaged his rebreather, overloading it with carbon dioxide. Despite frantic attempts from another teammate, Kai Kanan, to save him, Usimaki succumbed just 20 meters from where Halonen had died. By the end of that nightmare dive, only 3 of the 5 men surfaced alive. All of them were hospitalized with decompression sickness, their bodies screaming in pain. And in Norway, news of the deaths spread like wildfire. Authorities immediately closed the cave. For many, that would have been the end of the story. But for Grankvist, it wasn't. He had made a promise to Helenen's widow, a promise that her husband's body would not remain trapped in the darkness forever. Even though the official recovery operation failed and police deemed it too dangerous, the surviving divers quietly organized their own mission. On March 22nd, just weeks after the tragedy, a secret team of 27 divers returned. With meticulous planning, they descended again into Plura's depths. This time, they succeeded. After 3 exhausting days, the bodies of both Helenen and Uusimäki were finally brought to the surface. Rules had been broken, and authorities were displeased. But for the survivors, fulfilling the vow that no one gets left behind mattered more than any regulation. Their mission was complete, though the haunting memory of that day in Plura Cave would remain with them forever. South Africa's Sterkfontein Caves, the diver who never returned. From the icy depths of Norway, the next story takes us to South Africa, to the world-famous Sterkfontein Caves. Known as the cradle of humankind, these caves hold fossils dating back millions of years. For archaeologists, it's a window into human evolution. For divers, however, it's a perilous labyrinth where curiosity can quickly lead to disaster. In September 1984, 3 divers, Nuno Gomes, Peter Verhoel, and Malcolm, set out for what they believed would be a straightforward exploration. The plan was to push deeper into a partially submerged section of the caves that few had seen before. Nuno, confident from scouting the area just 2 weeks earlier, led the way. At first, their journey was exciting, even awe-inspiring. They squeezed through the Elephant Chamber, a passage named after a trunk-shaped rock formation, and reached a small, oval-shaped chamber. It wasn't large, maybe 3 meters wide and 1 meter high, but the feeling was electrifying. Here they were, standing or floating, in a space untouched for millions of years. After a short exploration, they decided to head back. But something strange happened. As Nuno and Malcolm swam ahead, they noticed Peter had strayed. Known for his adventurous streak, Peter often wandered off course to explore. This time, he had drifted into a side passage. Moments later, he rejoined them, and all seemed fine. But when they reached a large chamber called Milner Hall, Peter vanished again. No light, no bubbles, no sign of him. Panic set in. Nuno and Malcolm searched desperately, sweeping their lights across the murky chamber, but there was no trace. With air running low, they had no choice but to surface and call for help. Rescue attempts were chaotic. The fire brigade refused to enter, lacking cave diving expertise. The police divers tried, but silt had clouded the water so badly visibility dropped to just a meter. The cave was becoming more dangerous by the hour. Days passed, and still no Peter. What no one knew was that Peter was alive, trapped deep inside. In the darkness, he had strayed into a side tunnel and lost his way. At first, he was confident he could retrace his steps, but the passages twisted endlessly, each one looking maddeningly familiar, yet wrong. Panic built until, by sheer luck, he discovered a tiny air chamber. Squeezing through a hole, scraping his skin and gear, he found himself on a small island of rock above the water. There, he waited. The relief of finding air quickly turned to dread. He was alone, with no way to communicate, and no certainty anyone was still searching. For weeks, Peter clung to life. His flashlight died, plunging him into absolute darkness. He rationed what little air and water he could, but his body weakened. He began hallucinating. The silence and isolation drove him toward madness. 6 weeks later, officials called off the search, declaring him lost. When the caves reopened, Nuno returned with a friend, determined to find closure. It didn't take long. In a small chamber near a sump, they found Peter's body. He had survived nearly 3 weeks before starvation claimed him. On the walls were messages scrawled for his loved ones. His final words, "I love you, Shirley and Mom." The discovery was heartbreaking. For Nuno and Malcolm, who had shared those final moments with him in the cave, it was devastating. For the world, it was a grim reminder. Caves don't forgive mistakes. The Utah tragedy, Gollum's Cave. The final story takes us to the United States, to Utah's Y Mountain, just outside Brigham Young University. The cave in question carried a chilling nickname, Gollum's Cave. Unlike Plura or Sterkfontein, this wasn't a vast system. From the outside, it barely looked like more than a hole in the ground. But sometimes the most unassuming places hide the deadliest dangers. On the night of August 17th, 5 friends gathered for dinner. Among them was Jennifer Gilbreth, who had explored Gollum's Cave before. Her last visit nearly cost her life. She became hypothermic and passed out inside. Yet her adventurous spirit was undeterred. That night, she convinced her friends to try again. By 2 a.m., the group stood at the entrance. It was silent and foreboding. Joseph chose to stay outside. Jennifer, Blake, Scott, and Ariel prepared to enter with a single flashlight. To reach the inner chamber, they had to dive through a narrow, water-filled tunnel barely large enough for a person. Jennifer led the way, rope in hand, disappearing into the cold darkness. One by one, the others followed. At first, relief washed over them as they surfaced inside a cramped cave. But the air inside was poisonous. With no ventilation, carbon dioxide had built up, creating what cavers call bad air. At first, the effects were subtle, but as oxygen dropped, panic became inevitable. Jennifer attempted to exit first, but couldn't find the hole in the murky water. Her breath gave out, and she never surfaced. Ariel went next, colliding with Jennifer's body in the tunnel. Panic erupted. Blake and Scott followed, but their unconscious friends blocked the exit. One by one, they drowned. Hours later, Joseph, still waiting, realized something was wrong. Police eventually arrived, pumping air and draining water. Inside, they discovered all 4 bodies together near the exit. The cave was later sealed with concrete, but the haunting question remained. How could a small cave minutes from campus claim 4 young lives? The answer was simple. Cave diving doesn't discriminate. The risks are always the same. Underwater caves promise beauty and adventure, yet the reality is far deadlier. Plura showed how even experts can panic. Sterkfontein revealed isolation's crushing toll, and Gollum's Cave proved small spaces can be lethal. These aren't just cautionary tales, but tributes to lives lost, reminders that some frontiers demand too high a price for exploration. If you found this journey as chilling as it was eye-opening, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more epic stories. And let us know in the comments, after hearing these tales, would you ever dare to step into an underwater cave?